This is St. Louis Cardinals baseball. Spring training 2021 from Roger Dean Stadium in Jupiter, Florida. This afternoon, the New York Mets and the St. Louis Cardinals. And welcome to our St. Louis-based studios at Fox Sports Midwest. I'm Dan McLaughlin. That is Rick Horton. Cardinals hit with the injury bug right before opening day. They wake up this morning. They find out that center fielder Harrison Bader is going to miss some time.
Yeah, Bader's been struggling with his arm and having some pain in his arm, and it's affected his throwing in the beginning of spring training. But now, according to Mike Shildt today, it's affecting how he swings the bat as well. So they're going to be easy with him. He's probably going to be out for about 4 weeks and hopefully no much longer than that. But he's going to get a PRP injection, and we'll see how he responds to that.
One of the final tune-ups of the spring, and that's Carlos Martinez going today.
Interesting career for Carlos Martinez. He's been a closer, been a starter, but starting is really what he wants to do. He begged to be in the starting rotation. Cardinals have a couple of options because of injury in that rotation. Carlos seems to be the logical choice, but as John Mozeliak said coming into spring training, he'd like to see Carlos earn it, and so far, not so good with the numbers for Carlos. An ERA over 10, and perhaps the day is today when the Tsunami starts to earn it.
So with Bader out, maybe it opens up some spots for the Cardinals. More on that in a moment. Tsunami struggling. Well, the last 2 seasons, he's had 48 games, 5 starts. The innings, the ERA above 5, 24 saves. He's been a closer. So he's done just about every type of role in that Cardinals pitching staff the last handful of years. Well, time running out to secure spots. Who could it be? Rondon, Thomas, Nagowski, Justin Williams? We're about to find out. Luis Rojas there on the left, the Mets manager on the right. Mike Shildt of the Cardinals. Mets 10-8-1 this spring. The Cardinals 7-7-5, and that is Willie McGee talking there to Mr. Rojas. It's the Mets and Cardinals from Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium in Jupiter, Florida.
Mike Shildt in his 4th year managing the Cardinals, and of course he's already won a Manager of the Year award. Luis Rojas, a very good baseball man with good baseball lineage. He's just 39. His father, Felipe Alou, one of the greats, and I actually played for Felipe Alou, and he's one of 5 father-son combinations that have managed in the big league. So it's very rare, and Rojas is very highly thought of. He has kind of a calm, kind of easygoing demeanor, a lot like his dad.
Mets last year, 26-34. They were 3-2 after 5 games. They lost the next day, and Ricky, they never got above the 500 mark. And boy, if they had a busy offseason from ownership changes, had an issue with their general manager, had to replace him, and they brought in one of the big fish out there in Francisco Lindor, and he's got to be licking his chops after seeing what Fernando Tatis Jr. just got.
Yeah, and you think about Rojas being the right manager perhaps for this kind of a, again, easygoing, middle-of-the-road type guy with all the changes going on. I mean, managing change is not easy, but the Mets have a lot of high expectation, and it always revolves around their pitching, or typically does. But with Noah Syndergaard not quite ready to be on the mound, he's thrown a couple of bullpens, but he's not ready really for prime time yet, but will be. But they do have DeGrom. He's pretty good. Stroman, Walker. I mean, their rotation is going to be good, but their lineup, as you mentioned, Lindor, is a lot better.
A reminder that Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. This Bud's for you. By Shelter Insurance. For your auto, home, and life. We're your shield. We're your shelter. And by Ford, the official car and truck of the St. Louis Cardinals. Some key additions for New York. The biggest being the aforementioned Francisco Lindor, Carlos Carrasco, James McCann, Taijuan Walker, Trevor May, as you get a look at Carlos Martinez.
Well, Carlos has something to prove today. I mean, that's really what we talked about in the open. He's been given a spot in the rotation, presumably. Mike Shildt saying he's starting to tell guys kind of what their roles are and doing that privately before he announces it publicly. But the presumption would be he'd be the number 3 starter, let's say, on this team. But again, has had an up and down spring training where he's had some bad innings. So Carlos staying away from the bad inning is something that we've talked about, Dan, over the years in his career. There's just times where, as a starter, he just can't stop the bleeding.
Francisco Lindor will bat second in the Mets lineup today. Nimmo, Lindor, Conforto, Alonso, Dominic Smith, very good season last year. McNeil, Davis, McCann, Guillorme, who had the 22-pitch at bat against Jordan Hicks.
This is the 5th time these two teams have played each other this spring, and really the first time that I've had a chance to see Lindor play. We saw the Mets early in the year. They didn't have all their A guys there, and of course not traveling to Port St. Lucie, part of the protocol at this point. So I'm really interested to watch Lindor play. I've loved seeing him over in the other league.
Great player,
no doubt.
Brandon Nimmo, good spring, 13 games, 343 the average. He's in center field today. I think it's going to be interesting, too, with Martinez, who's had issues with lefties. He's got a bunch of lefties to deal with in this lineup.
Yeah, on the other side, the Cardinals don't have a lot of lefties around, period. Not just not in the lineup today, but they're not left-handed heavy, but the Mets are.
4th consecutive appearance and start for Carlos Martinez against the Mets. The 2-1 pitch. Taken low, 3-1. Want to see him be efficient, command the strike zone, and watch his velocity too, which has been a tick or two down since the beginning of last season. There's a ground ball. Martinez underhands to Goldschmidt for the out.
I don't mind them necessarily the velocity being down as we look at the Cardinals defense. They have Nagowski getting the start in left field today. I find that interesting. Dylan Carlson with Bader out gets the start in center. Austin Dean in right with Rondon and Arenado on the left side. Carpenter, Goldschmidt on the right with, of course, Yadier Molina behind the plate. You know, I don't mind the velocity being down so much for Carlos as long as he's got good movement and he's throwing strikes with it and getting ground balls. He can be a strikeout pitcher or a ground ball pitcher, but you've got to be a pitcher that gets outs either way.
Lindor, 342, first year with the Mets, and the Mets are hoping it's a long-term relationship with Lindor as he hits it the other way past Arenado and into left field for a base hit. One of the elite players in the game comes from the cash-strapped Indians, and the question right now around their camp with about a week to go, can they keep him with the New York Mets? Lindor has said that his preference is to have either an extension by the time they leave Florida or table the talks until after the season.
I think that's fair. I think from a player's point of view, talking about a contract during the season is a distraction, not just for the player, but for your teammates.
Here's Michael Conforto, 258 the average this spring, 1 home run. He's driven in 3. Shift on the right side of the infield. Well, the Cardinals, it's been a busy morning. Things change in a hurry in the game of baseball, and every single day it's a new chapter in a season, even in spring training, as they got word that Bader is on the injured list and will miss about a month. And the Cardinals also learned today, according to Derek Gould of the Post-Dispatch, that Justin Williams does have a 4th option year. And initially they thought that that would not be the case, so he gets a 4th option. If the Cardinals, want to send him to the minor leagues, they can.
And think of that not necessarily as good news for Justin Williams.
Yeah. Now, from the Cardinals' perspective, a little flexibility.
Definitely. Although I guess if he's going to get that news that he does have one more option, getting the news that there's another outfield spot on the same day, maybe that softens the blow a bit.
So today in center field for the Cardinals, they have Dylan Carlson, and very well could be the opening day center fielder. Lane Thomas really hasn't run with it this spring. Got off to a good start. Has cooled a bit. And the 1-2 pitch. A check swing. And it's 2-2. And I find this lineup today to be an important one for the Cardinals. This is not just a run-of-the-mill type spring training game because of what we're talking about. Now, roster spot opens up. Bader's on the IL. Williams could now go to the minor leagues. So what does that mean for Austin Dean, John Nagowski, Jose Rondon, who's at shortstop today? All those things are in play for the Cardinals. This is a chance to make an impression, and anytime that Mike Schilt has talked with the media or John Mozeliak, they say, hey, we don't have to turn in this 26-man roster yet. Let's see this final week and how it plays out.
And it'll be a 26-man roster plus 5 taxi squad members who will have to travel with the team, go through the protocol as they did last year. And one of them has to be a catcher. So you think about that in the mix of guys that are waiting in the wings just in case. So that you still have to option them. I mean, they're still essentially minor leaguers that are traveling with you. But important to those players, I mean, it's nice to be seen. If you're kind of at the alternate site and you're kind of out of sight, out of mind, that's not good for the players. So if you don't make the team, put me on the taxi squad.
And you're going to have some workouts at Sauget,
right
across the river, that independent league ballpark, instead of going to Springfield. The 2-2 pitch taken low. And my assumption would be that you would have some of those workouts, maybe, Ricky, if the proximity is the way it is for the Cardinals, is that you break Jupiter, you're going to have your minor league camp, you got your alternate site, and you could have games at Sauget or workouts there while the team is at home, and then when the team's on the road, you're playing at Busch Stadium.
And even playing under the lights potentially.
Sure.
And there's some value in that, clearly, to get that experience of playing under the lights. And so I expect they're going to try to do that.
Lindor is running on the 3-2 and a ground ball. Taken by Goldie. He'll step on the bag. Lindor to second, and there's 2 away.
That last pitch is exactly what you like from Carlos Martinez in what he's capable of, getting ground balls. You just always seem to hit the top of the baseball. You see the ball, and then it sinks, and you hit the top of the ball, pound it into the dirt. That's what Nimmo did. And Carlos keeping the ball in the infield is part of his success.
Here is the Polar Bear. Nickname was given to him by Todd Frazier. Spring training of 2019, and we weren't sure what to expect out of Pete Alonso. Well, you got 53 home runs in 2019. Last year with the Mets, 16 in the shortened season. This guy has got incredible power.
And a good spring. 378, 3 homers, 12 RBIs. I've not seen him either this spring. And Cardinals playing some pretty tough teams this spring training. We should probably talk about that, Dan. Think about the National League East teams are going to be very formidable.
Carpenter, the second baseman today, makes the play. Mets strand a runner. Cardinals coming up. They're half of the first, and Dylan Carlson is your leadoff man today. Midwest becoming Bally Sports Midwest. Bally Sports, new network of your favorite team starting March 31st. Corey Oswalt, right-hander, will face this lineup. Dylan Carlson, the switch hitter at the top, then Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado. Carpenter batting cleanup. Molina, Dean, Nagowski, Rondon, and Martinez.
I think it's interesting to have Carlson in that first spot as we look at Oswalt. His numbers not very good this spring. In fact, the Cardinals hit him pretty well the last time they saw him. And he's getting the start today. It was actually originally going to be Taijuan Walker, but he's throwing in a B game at Port St. Lucie. So Oswalt's the one that had to make the trip down to Jupiter to face the Cardinals today.
That's hit out of play by Dylan Carlson.
But you do wonder whether the plan B for the leadoff hitter is what we're seeing right here. With Harrison Bader out for a bit, if Tommy Edman is not playing on a particular day, who else leads off?
I think it's this guy.
I think it's a good choice.
I had thought in the offseason about combinations of the Cardinal lineup because I don't have much time on my hands to do anything productive. So I just start thinking the variations.
When you're done, when you've mastered the Rubik Cube, you just go
Exactly.
to Cardinal lineups. I see.
And I had Dylan Carlson with some of the variations of this Cardinal lineup. Guillorme giving Chase Sennett out of play. Well, you were telling me about Chris Bonner, who was a quarterback at Colorado State Pueblo. Division II championship in 2014, and that is Oswald's cousin. You said he was a heck of a QB, and then his brother Todd was a wide receiver at California Lutheran. So he comes from a very athletic family.
Useless information in my head and on the paper in front of us.
And a ground ball that's hit to short, and Carlson out by about a half step. Mets defensively, Dominic Smith in left, Nimmo in center, Conforto is in right. Guillerme is at third base, Lindor, McNeil, Alonso, and McCann. So a lot of their regulars are in there today.
You know, we have analytics on everything. I'm not sure we have an analytic on this, but percentage of the time you're smiling while playing baseball, I'd have to say Lindor is top 10.
Fun player to watch, great personality.
But don't
seems
you think
to be
that's
the
part
fit
of it?
for New York.
Don't you think he actually
believes it?
Emanates that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of who he is. He's talking. He's just loose, but professional, 100%.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a little fun out there.
I hope not.
Or in the booth.
I
or in
hope
the
not.
studio.
I can't wait to have that happen.
Lifted out to deep right field. Conforto, though, is there for the out, and there's 2 away. The batter will be Nolan Arenado.
We've mentioned this the last couple of days, Dan, but another beautiful day weather-wise in South Florida. We think, according to our apps, that the temperature is around 75 degrees at game time, but just not having a lot of rain this spring has just been such a benefit for all clubs down in Florida, because that can kind of derail your plans a little bit. You have to work indoors, and that ball booted by Guillorme, the third baseman. Should have been the third out.
You could see that coming. It had the top spin, a little short hop there at the end.
A little awkward way of trying to receive that, too, but the weather has just been very cooperative. There's the top spin. Arenado hits the top of the ball. He's not sure whether to charge it or not. Tries to get it about chest high, and the glove, the feet, and the hands were not quite in sync for Guillorme, who's a good fielder.
He'll be a bench player more than likely for the Mets. And it brings in Matt Carpenter. Matt 1 for 30 this spring. I don't care how long you've been in the game. You're 1 for 30, and it's spring training. It's got to be eating at him right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time where you're 1 for something, and you say, well, it's spring training, and you say, well, it's spring training, and well, it's spring training, and then you kind of stop saying that. You start to feel the pressure of it, no matter how many years you've played. You know, every player likes to produce. You want to get the handshakes. You want to get the big fly every once in a while. You want to score runs and make plays and get the high fives from your teammates, and it's not fun when it's not working.
1 ball, 1 strike on Carpenter. Runner at first is Nolan Arenado. And Carpenter lifts a fly ball out to deep center field. But that'll stay in the ballpark as the catch is made by Nimmo. No score. Hit with COVID. He said, quote, after COVID, I never was 100% with my body. In my mind, I was 100%, but my body was without strength. But right now, I have a lot of energy. I feel good.
Yadier Molina saw him in the Caribbean Series, and he said he looked different. And he also said he noticed a bit of a maturity with Carlos that was beyond what he'd seen. And that's what you hope kind of translates to, you know, a big year for Carlos. He's going to get the opportunity. But, you know, you still got to get it done. I mean, and I'm happy for him that he feels better. And there were several Cardinals that had moments where they weren't 100%. Lane Thomas is another one, Ryan Helsley, where it really did affect them physically. And, you know, for those who've been through it, they get it. I mean, we get it. The fatigue factor lingers at times. And so it's understandable that Carlos is happy to be 100% again.
Dominic Smith grounds to second baseman Matt Carpenter. And the first out here in inning number 2.
You counting ground ball outs yet, Danny?
Well, right now I see 4.
Good counting.
Thank you. Well, that's when you know he's right.
Exactly.
Probably a little late life on that.
Yeah.
Sinking action.
And again, I think more important for Carlos as a starter. As a reliever, you might need strikeouts. As a starter, what the Cardinals desperately need Carlos to rediscover is how to pitch 7 innings. And that's not about striking people out necessarily. It's about getting quick outs and having that sinker work.
There's Jeff McNeil. Tough spring, 094, 1 home run. And he is driven in 2. And a base hit past Carpenter and into the gap in right center. McNeil on his way to second base. Throw into second is not in time. And a 1-out double for Jeff McNeil.
Well, not getting strike 1. He's a little straighter with the next delivery to make sure he gets a strike with it. And McNeil's ready for it. He laces that into right center, and good hustle out of the box. You can tell that was going towards the gap right between Cardinal outfielders. Dean did the best he could, but a one-out double.
Mets have not been to the playoffs since a wild card loss to the San Francisco Giants in 2015. J.D. Davis back for another year at third. Had a shaky 2020, hit .247. That was 60 points lower than what he did in 2019. But he wasn't the only one.
That's right.
I wonder if we get to the point where we look at those numbers and just say,
almost throw them out. Not exactly, but it's like a spring training. I mean, it's a protracted spring training, really, in terms of the number of at-bats they got. Maybe, you know, an extra week of games than a typical year. So, you know, we always say spring training numbers don't count. I mean, they're helpful. They're helpful in preparing you for a season mentally and physically, but the numbers don't tell the whole story of 2020.
Mets did kick the tires on Chris Bryant, his availability. He'll open up the season, presumably with the Chicago Cubs. But who's going to be left standing for the Cubs if they do not get off to a good start? They have a ton of free agents. Rizzo, Contreras, Baez, Bryant, Jock Peterson, some of their pitching staff. So David Ross is going to have his work cut out for him.
And you can see the direction they're going in terms of rebuild. I mean, they've been good for several years, no question about that. But when you let Schwarber go and you let Darvish go, you know, it kind of signals, I think, the direction for the club.
There's a 1-2 pitch to J.D. Davis. He's the designated hitter today. You know, we talk about so many guys in the game today, pitchers specifically, that have this incredible velocity. They're throwing mid to high 90s, and it's in your starting rotation. It's in your bullpen. Look at what the Cubs are going to be throwing out there.
Zach Davies.
Hendricks. Arrieta's not throwing high 90s. So there's some guys in there that are kind of the throwback, if you will, of not throwing hard, but let's see them pitch. I don't know if that's good or bad for the Cardinals, who typically against guys that are throwing softer, it hasn't been good news, especially with Hendricks.
If you're throwing soft and you're good, that's different than throwing soft and you're bad.
That's right.
So I think you give Hendricks the benefit of the doubt that he just knows what he's doing. Davies, too. I think he's underrated. He had a decent year last year with the Padres.
Did. It's part of the Darvish deal. The 2-2 pitch. Fastball and got him. First strikeout for Carlos Martinez.
That looked like a four-seamer from Carlos. He's been throwing sinker, and he decided to just rear back and let one go. And this is what you see out of Carlos as a reliever. Just a good high fastball with some spin rate to it. Did you get the spin rate on that one, Dan?
I didn't, but I'll be digging it up later tonight.
Okay.
You can bet on that. Here's James McCann. Mets inked him to a 4-year deal. Really a late bloomer. Combined last couple of seasons, batted .276. And they love his defensive metrics. So you're talking about spin rate. Well, here's a guy that gets a 4-year deal. And a lot of it was based on what he can do defensively, analytically. Very, very good defensive player.
With a very nice contract.
I'd say so. No balls, one strike on James McCann. He's hit .310 this spring training, no home runs, and has driven in one. McNeil, he's at second. Do you like Carlos as a starter or a reliever?
Well,
if everything was equal and guys are healthy, where would you rather see him fit with the Cardinals?
Well, that is a different question, and where do I like him now? I like him as a starter now because I think that's where the need is. And I think that's a little bit of the way the Cardinals look at it with Carlos. He does have the flexibility. You can see him doing both. You know, I think he's probably more effective as a reliever. He's just one of those guys that can throw every day, number one. But he's got the swing and miss stuff when he needs it. And I think he feeds on the adrenaline of being a closer, and he's not sure where to use his adrenaline as a starter. It's like he's trying to put a governor on it a little bit. And then some days he comes really amped up. I mean, it's hard to measure up as a starter how to handle all that.
Well, to your point, first innings have been a problem for him. Now he got out of the first inning this afternoon. Stranded a man, trying to strand another.
Mentioned Carlos wanting to see him going back to being a 7th inning pitcher. It's been a long time. July of 2018, the last time he was able to go 7 innings as a starter. Again, a lot of time in the bullpen since then, and the crazy year last year. But the Cardinals need him to do that. Not only does Carlos need to do that, the Cardinals need him to do it because of 162 games this year, and a couple guys hurt already. So they need his durability.
2-2, pulled foul.
You have the governor on Alex Reyes. 100-inning limit, more or less, for him. So the options of kind of what you do in that rotation and who comes in next for maybe long relief are getting smaller and smaller.
There's the defensive alignment for the Cardinals. Shading in the outfield. Big gap in left center. Playing to pull just a bit on the infield. And the 2-2 pitch. Got that sinker working at times today, doesn't he?
Yeah, when the sinker's working, you get foul balls off the front foot. And you get hitters that don't like it.
So throw it again.
Of course.
Make it uncomfortable.
Not really a game of mercy, is it?
No, sir. It's the 5th time this spring the Mets and Cardinals have hooked up. Mets are 3-1 so far against St. Louis. Nice play by Goldschmidt. Over to the bag, steps on it for the outs. Mets strand a runner. Molina, Dean, and Nagowski, who's in left today, coming up. Download the MLB app to get in-game video highlights, live pitch-by-pitch, breaking news, player updates, stat leaderboards, and so much more. It's for your Cardinals and the rest of Major League Baseball. Here's Yadier Molina. Molina, Dean, and Nagowski. Yadi hitting .242. Long home run that he hit about a week ago. And he's driven in 3 this spring. Yadi and Waino, how about those two yesterday? That was fun to watch.
It really was. Adam was in midseason form. And he and Yadi working well together as always, and they're going to add to that count of appearances together, which is really historic.
Serious question. You think we're doing games this time next year and 4 and 50 are back?
Well, you know, I was lobbying for an extension yesterday with Adam in the midst of what he was doing.
It's yanked down the left field line and foul. Yeah, people are like, oh, it'd be great to have them have fans at their final opening day. And I've said to people, well, why is it going to be their final opening day?
Well, and not only that, and I was thinking about this today.
I mean, there's a lot of time.
But the original conversation, it is. And you don't want to jump at make the wrong decision too early. But when you think about both Wainwright and Molina, you'd say, well, wouldn't it be good to have them back for nostalgic reasons? Because they're a Cardinal and it just feels good to have them there and it's comfortable. Well, not just that, but performance reasons. Both these guys have performed extremely well this spring.
2 of your better players.
Yes.
We saw Yadi pick up hit number 2,000 last year of his career. And he was awfully good against the Padres, by the way, in postseason play. And that's held on to a swing and a miss and a strikeout. Oswalt, his first of the day. I've been waiting since we got off the air yesterday to find out your Toyota key to the game.
Well, you actually teased it earlier in the broadcast today, and that is the open competition going on with the likes of Austin Dean, John Nagowski, Jose Rondon. Next 3 batters. They've all hit over 300 this spring, and they're stating a case for being on the club. But it's with Harrison Bader going down today, it just kind of creates more options, possibilities, permutations, combinations of how the Cardinals will use their outfielders. And so these guys should see that as an opportunity today. And the question is who will grab it.
Austin Dean off the bench late yesterday, and the Cardinals come from behind tie 5-5. Hit a 2-run homer. His lone home run this spring, he's driven in 7. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And that is outside.
Rondon, Dean, and Carlson lead the club this spring with 7 runs scored apiece. And that's a stat that we've always said, Danny, you and I have talked about it a lot. That's an underrated stat.
No
you
doubt.
Find ways to score runs, that means something. And it also means that with Rondon and Dean especially, that Cardinals are scoring late with their non-regular players, and that's a good sign.
3-2 the count. John Nogowski on deck. Good sinking action on that pitch, and the second strikeout. Nogowski, a great spring, 375 the average. 1 home run. He has driven in 10. On base percentage is above 500. All he's done is hit, get on base.
And every at-bat he has, he just seems as comfortable as the one before. And he's faced some top pitching, too. It's not just the Plan B guys that he's facing. So I really like what I've seen from him. 28 years old. He's not a young potential player. Been around, but swinging the bat great.
And again out to deep left at the wall. Gone! John Nogowski does it again. His second home run this spring. He's driven in 11. And he gives the Cardinals a 1-0 lead. The Cardinals left fielder today, John Nogowski.
Are we talking about grabbing the opportunity? That's grabbing an opportunity right there. First pitch he sees, and that's the quick bat, the short swing of Nogowski, but the power that goes along with it. He's just been fun to watch.
Here's Rondon. It may be a situation where John Nogowski forces his way onto this roster, especially with the news today.
Yeah, well, I'll almost say even without the news today, but I think he is clearly, if you're talking about, and this is the push-pull of saying it's an open competition and saying we want guys to compete, you know, if you do that and you get it done in the fashion he's gotten it done, it's a little disappointing not to reward that.
Rondon can play all over the infield, little outfield too. Good camp, 316, home run, driven in 8.
And one thing that Mike Schilt did say this week, there are guys that have performed well, and there may not be enough room at the table for them. So he's just, again, setting the tone for the fact that, you know, with all the players doing well, it's a future opportunity, but maybe not an opening day opportunity for some of them.
So John Nogowski, his second home run of the spring, and now 11 runs batted in. And the 2-2 pitch, fouled back. I really like what I've seen out of Rondon.
Was on a Zoom call with him this morning, and very kind of easygoing guy, very kind of gracious, talking about his off-season regiment, trying to get stronger. And again, had the good winter ball, but he did that by bulking up and had some extra hitting instruction, and he really thinks his versatility defensively is as good as his offense.
And a base hit into center. See where the ball really does jump off his bat, too. Sosa has not had a great camp. Now there's a lot invested in Edmundo Sosa, who is out of options. A lot of years in the minor leagues. Grew up in the Cardinals system. That is part of it. And John Mozeliak, I mean, he says it all the time, and it is cliche. You know, the team you break camp with is not the team that you have at the 4th of July, and it's not the team you're probably going to see at the trading deadline. It's, you know, once you hit August is when you want to have that team ready to roll for the stretch run.
That is 100% true. And you think about why, as a general manager or team president, you don't want to tie your hands, too. If you get rid of the guy with no options and somebody else gets hurt, you can't get him back.
So Martinez pops out to short. John Nogowski have a spring. 1-0 St. Louis. Nothing St. Louis, top of the third. John Nogowski in left field today has homered. Cardinals Hall of Fame ballot presented by Edward Jones is live now through April 17th. Pick one player, and he will be a part a baseball immortality. The Cardinals Hall of Fame.
Very special thing.
Carlton, Hernandez, Matty Moe, Edgar Renteria, and Lee Smith. All on the ballot. One ball, one strike. Luis Guillorme. Mentioned it earlier, had the 22 pitch at bat against Cardinals closer Jordan Hicks. One of the memorable moments in at bats this spring. Grounds out to first. Another ground ball out.
You still counting, Danny? That's 6.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's 6.
Thank you.
Got it. So first time through the lineup, 6 ground ball outs, and that's what you want to see. And with this defense, by the way, is what you want to do.
Yeah. And I think that's a good fit. And again, this is the Carlos Martinez we need to see. I'm very pleased with what I've seen so far. And it started to say the Mets wearing a patch on their jersey that we should mention, number 41. And that's in honor, of course, of Tom Seaver, their Hall of Famer who passed.
Line to Carlson for out number 2.
And one of the great right-handed pitchers that this game has ever seen. Tom Seaver was indeed terrific.
Passed away at the age of 75. 311 wins in his career. Over 3,600 strikeouts. 20 years in the big leagues. 12-time All-Star. And that patch number 41 on the right sleeve. For fans that don't know, you grew up in the New York area. And you like those Metropolitans.
Yeah, Tom Seaver was my favorite pitcher. And why not? He started out in his career as good as anybody. He was young. And, you know, one of the things that my parents instilled in me when I was younger is the importance of education. And Seaver always talked about that. He USC graduate. And, you know, that was just kind of a positive message, I think, to send to young athletes that your education matters as well. And Seaver took a lot of opportunities to share that, influence that.
Mets all-time leader in wins, strikeouts, shutouts, ERA, complete games, starts.
Told this story before, but I would just imagine myself as Tom Seaver on Kiner's Corner, which was their postgame show. Ralph Kiner, their longtime broadcaster, great player himself, interviewing Tom Seaver about his latest guy. Just imagine that I would be on a postgame show. And I shared that with Tim McCarver once, that was my goal, was to be on Kiner's Corner.
When Tim was doing the Mets games.
When Tim was doing the Mets games, and he got me to do the intro one night to Kiner's Corner when I was playing. It was very meaningful that he did that for me.
Second strikeout for Martinez in a 1-2-3 inning. Midway through 3, and it's 1-0 St. Louis. That Lindor likes to have a little fun. He's always smiling. We'll take a look at this.
Well, you have to have fun when you strike out, too. And here's what happens. The strikeout in the dirt. Yachty tags Lindor, holds it, and then decides to flip him the baseball. But then what happens next? Lindor's got the baseball, and he plays along and actually throws the baseball at Carlos Martinez. And, you know, hitters get thrown out all the time, and I guess they just as soon take advantage of an opportunity to throw at a pitcher. But it was all in fun, and that's, again, the kind of player Lindor is.
Top of the Cardinals lineup at Dylan Carlson. Big swing and a miss. 1-2. Ricky's been talking a lot about Dylan having similarities to Carlos Beltran. Same uniform number that he wore here in St. Louis. Switch hitters. And this one is popped up on the infield. Lindor makes the catch.
So one of the things we looked at in those similarities and talked about is not necessarily how they start. So we'll first look at Carlson. That's him homering earlier this week. Ball jumps off his bat, and it does Beltran's as well. But it's the finish of the swing that I see as the same. They don't start the same, but very similar at this point. But it's the low finish of their swing across their back. It just reminded me of Beltran when I saw it from the booth, especially. You can see that. And not necessarily, again, the front side, but the finish of the swing reminds me of the sweet swing of Carlos Beltran. And you pointed out, Dan, not just the finish of the swing, but how quiet Carlson is at the plate. And really smooth in the way he goes about, not a lot of wasted movement, and that's certainly Beltran.
Both guys, I noticed there too, they stand tall.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have the crouch in the...
The bat's different, the leg kick's different, but...
The body, you know, they're standing tall at the plate. That's hit sharply to Guillorme off the bat of Paul Goldschmidt, and it brings in Arenado. Wonder what Nolan thinks about hitting down in Florida as opposed to Arizona in spring. I mean, ball just jumps out of those ballparks in Arizona,
you get big
and it's
numbers.
hard to get one here in Florida.
I mean, most spring trainings, you look at the numbers in the Cactus League, and you think, well, the Brewers won 15-13 today,
Yeah.
and it just kind of happens because if the ball's carrying, it's just the way it is. You don't realize that really, maybe I don't think about it naturally, but just how high the elevation is there. You know, Phoenix is the second highest elevation city in all of baseball. Denver, of course, being number one, and Arenado pretty familiar with Denver.
1 ball, 1 strike. Reached on an error, left stranded back in the first. Hitting under 200, no home runs, and has driven in 3. The 1-1 pitch. Even on the off days, you will find Nolan Arenado at the complex down in Jupiter working out, ground balls, batting cage. Baseball rat, man, loves this sport. And
he's pretty good
dazzling play yesterday on a shift too.
Yeah, he's pretty good at this sport too. And it's not just the bat. I mean, the glove is very well known just how good he is, adding all of his gold gloves to the caliber of gold glovers the Cardinals already have. Now the Cardinals are going to miss Harrison Bader for the time he's out because his defense is extraordinary, no question. Carlson is good and still learning and growing and all that, but Tyler O'Neill winning a gold glove in left, and of course Yachty and Goldschmidt have no equals.
Hit to short. Arenado 0 for 2. 1, 2, 3 go the Cardinals. Nagowski's home run, the difference so far. We move to the 4th, and it's 1-0. Care Spring Training 50-50 raffle is open now through March 29th, so we're almost done. You can try your luck at winning some cash, all while supporting kids in our community. Visit Cardinals.com/5050 today. Michael Conforto, Pete Alonso, Dominic Smith, 3, 4, and 5 in the lineup here for Carlos Martinez. He's allowed a couple of hits, a lot of ground ball outs today. There's a fly ball lifted out to deep center field. Carlson back near the wall with room and makes the catch.
Couple of balls this afternoon just barely staying in the ballpark, including that one. Matt Carpenter on the Cardinals side did it for the final out in the first inning, and doesn't appear to be very windy. Of course, it's not windy where we are here in St. Louis, but it's hard to tell at the ballpark. It doesn't seem to have the brisk wind. If the wind's blowing out, clearly it has many times this spring, those are big flies, and it appears to be blowing a little more right to left and actually in towards home plate, and that was good news right there for Carlos.
A strike to Pete Alonso, grounded into the shift his first time up. This guy usually doesn't need the wind to help him.
No, he doesn't. Oh, man.
He hit a home run at Busch Stadium a couple years ago. And you think about the David Freese home run in that grassy knoll, if you will, in center. He put one up on the concrete.
Yeah.
To the batter's eye.
Well, you know,
that is a long ways.
I would say he looks fairly strong. Guy's got muscle upon muscle. And also seems that he does not have a crazy big bat either. I mean, it's just kind of like a short swing and just straight to the ball and generates a lot of power.
Two and two the count. Carpenter with the shift on the shortstop side of the bag, and Alonso gets underneath it out to shallow left, and the catch made by Rondon. Now I'd be curious if we were at the ballpark to see what Nagowski did on that. Did he break back?
Yeah.
You know, that's something that Willie McGee is watching right now. What kind of jumps are these guys getting?
Well, Willie McGee becomes even more important, and we will look at it. We can tell you right there, he does take a short little half step back, but then comes on hard and could have gotten there in time if need be. But Rondon was camped under it. And, you know, Willie becomes important because you've got Nagowski, who has played some outfield, but clearly he's not playing where he's used to playing. Bader, not a lot of reps in center field. Found out today from Mike Schilt that Dylan Carlson had actually asked to play some center field about a week ago. He said, look, if I'm going to be an extra center fielder, I'd like some reps in center. And so he not only got his wish, but now he's back out there again with Bader being out. But Willie's ability to help the outfielders with, you know, the preparation side, the mental side of it is extremely valuable. And it's not just Willie.
Strikes.
He's there with Pop Warner and Stubby Clapp, do a lot to help set the defense clearly. They, you know, Ollie Marmol, the coaching staff, is beyond what just Willie McGee, but Willie has got an eye on the outfielders, no question.
And the 1-2 with the changeup. See, Martinez looks like he's feeling a little bit here today. Better than the pace is better today. Everything.
No doubt. You see almost confidence building with him.
The 2-2. And a 3-2 pitch here to Dominic Smith coming up. He grounded out to second his first time up. And he walked him.
Last 3 pitches, Carlos did something he's not done in this game till now, and that's fall off to the first base side. That is a classic thing that the Cardinals have seen him fall into. And it's just, you end up coming around the side of the baseball. So whether he threw a fastball, a changeup, and a slider, but all of them, he got underneath them and left them to the arm side. He just didn't kind of have the finish, the same kind of finish that we've seen. Maybe moving to the stretch will help him sync up again.
Extends the inning to Jeff McNeil, doubled into the gap in right center field first time up. 1 for 1.
When you say falling off, part of that is just the front shoulder flying out a bit prematurely.
So how do you
much better
combat that then if you're a pitcher?
You got to will yourself, and it's a, you know, it's really a physical awareness thing and an adjustment you have to make to keep the front shoulder closed as long as possible, and then go straight to the target. And that's what you need from Carlos. But when you see that front shoulder open up and you see his chest facing the hitter, and you can see that from behind very easily, then he's in trouble.
Ground ball into the shift, and the play is made by Rondon. Mets have stranded 3. Carpenter, Molina, Dean coming up. Our Budweiser, what's on tap? And the Cardinals head to the Great American Ballpark in the banks of the Ohio. That'll be opening day right around the corner. And a pitch down and in to Matt Carpenter. And that'll be the first of 162, and let's go. We're
the
ready.
Cardinals' first chance to see a team other than the 4 they've been playing all spring. I wonder if that'll be an advantage at the end of the day.
Yeah, you know what? It'd be nice.
Yeah.
And by the way, hopefully they won't be wearing red tops.
Right.
You know, we see the Nationals.
The Nationals, of
Like,
course.
well, who's that guy on your screen? So the Reds saw Bauer go. They traded away Iglesias to become the, what would you have to assume, closer, setup man with the Angels. There's some pretty big names that they said goodbye to. As Carpenter waits on the pitch, hits it out to center. 0 for 2 today. Twice flying out to center field.
2 good at-bats, though, for Matt Carpenter. Nothing to show for it. But, again, when you're struggling as he's been struggling, that just adds insult to injury.
Eugenio Suarez has been playing shortstop for the Reds, which was his natural position.
Well, the Reds were clearly on the uptick and on the move, and I know a lot of Reds fans feel like they've taken some steps backwards, but you know, they still have some pitchers, including that opening day starter Luis Castillo, who is very, very tough.
Off the bat of Yachty into center field. What I, for the life of me, can't figure out is why that team did not hit. They were run prevention last year with good pitching. Trevor Bauer wins the Cy Young Award. But, man, you look at that lineup and then hitting in that ballpark and you're saying, well, this team's going to score a lot of runs, and they didn't do it a year ago.
Absolutely a mystery. I wouldn't count them out, though. You look at the Central Division, the Brewers made themselves better the last few weeks before spring training, especially not only did they get Colton Wong, good for Colton Wong, he's in their leadoff spot and will do a great job for them, no question, and we wish him the best most games. But they also got Jackie Bradley Jr. Going to make their outfield better.
So Keston Hiura will move from second. He was having some throwing issues. He'll go to first.
That had to happen.
Yep.
I mean, they either had to trade him to the American League to DA. He just couldn't throw. Having issues with that. But he can hit, flat out hit.
You think about that outfield and how good it could be defensively with Yelich, Kane, Jackie Bradley Jr., Wong on the infield, moving Hiura to first base. So they themselves have really improved with just a couple of moves. And Dean hits it out of play. Reds last year, by the way, as a team, batted .212 and did not score in their postseason series against the Braves. Here's a 1-2 pitch to Austin Dean. Went up the ladder and struck him out third today. And we played 4. 1-0 St. Louis. Minnesota Wild tomorrow, 6:30, right here on Fox Sports Midwest, soon to be Bally Sports Midwest. Blues and Wild tomorrow at 6:30. Carlos Martinez, inning number 5 rolls in, 2 hits allowed. He has struck out 2, walked 1, no runs. And he'll get 7, 8, and 9 in the lineup. Here's J.D. Davis, struck out his first time up, now hit by a pitch. And the leadoff man is aboard.
Well, not the start to the inning Carlos wanted. He's been getting ground ball after ground ball, but came on the side of that particular pitch, and it just bore in on Davis, who was wearing a lot of protection on his arm, so he doesn't care about getting hit.
There's James McCann, grounded out to Paul Goldschmidt his first time up.
You know, Todd Hollingsworth, we had the chance to work with him this week, and he handles the Marlins analysis, and he was talking about Edgar Renteria, a player that we have in common, who's up for one of the spots for the Cardinal Hall of Fame. He talked about how he was one of the last closed stance batters, and you just don't see him. And I thought about that with McCann batting last time. Very open with his stance, and by open I mean the front foot is off to the left, and he's really open to the pitcher, his chest facing the pitcher. But what he'll do is close up, and you see more guys do this now and start out open and then close
up the middle, base hit.
But
and
I can't
stopping at second. Davis.
I think if George Hendrick was a guy who hit with a very closed stance, but just not many recently.
You think that's because of the velocity in the game?
Yeah, and I think people have just learned that you actually can see the ball better if you're open. You know, Andres Galarraga made that adjustment as a Cardinal. He got more open, and he found that he could see with both eyes. He could see the pitcher and the ball better. And so you're seeing more, and then you're closing up as the ball's about ready to be delivered by the pitcher, and just more natural to hit that way.
Guillorme, right side, Carpenter, Rondon to first, and a double play. 4-6-3 on the double play.
So Carlos, we talked about avoiding the big inning. How do you do that? You get the ground ball. Segunda base, shortstop, primera base, un doble play. Bueno.
Carlos Martinez made just 5 starts last year. Pitched through the 5th only once. And he's trying to get through 5 here today. Top of the lineup, Brandon Nimmo. Jerry's Familia getting loose in the Mets pen. Strike 1. Nimmo has grounded back to the pitcher and lined out to center.
Always thought, Dan, that Carlos has the ability, as long as things are going okay for him and he's getting outs and his mechanics are okay, he is strong as an ox. He could pitch forever. Just feel like his arm is incredibly durable. You know, if there's a Cardinal pitcher, think about anybody on their staff who could throw 200 pitches in a game. If they had to, it'd be this guy.
I'd throw Waino in there too, because Waino could just go and go and go, figure out a way to get you out. But I understand the premise of what you're talking about.
Carlos might be throwing 94 on that 200
That's the difference.
pitch.
Good pitch. 1-2.
Waino would find a way to get you out even if he had to throw it underhand.
That's right. And he's all but told Mike Schilt and Mike Maddox that. If you need me, keep throwing me.
Yeah.
Got him. Strikeout for Martinez. So it started by hitting a man, then the base hit to center, 4-6-3 double play, and a strikeout on Nimmo. 1-0 midway through 5. Old nights at Busch Stadium. Wrap yourself up in an adult puffy vest. Washington will be in town, and there's promotions for every game in the month of April. It's presented by Bayer, and get your puffy vest. Jeurys Familia. He's been a closer at times with the Mets, back and forth in that role. Big arm, and he'll take over for Oswalt, who went 4 innings today.
And pitched very, very well.
John,
I also know now what I'm going to get you for Christmas, a puffy vest.
You got it.
I could tell you were excited about that, so I don't need to shop any longer.
Wear that baby with pride. Wear it on the golf course. Wear it at home. Wear it when you feel comfortable. It is the puffy vest presented by Bayer. Here's Nagowski, who homered his first time up. 1 ball, 1 strike. Take you back to the second.
He didn't waste any time jumping on this Oswalt pitch. And second big fly of the spring for Nagowski, and he just continues to impress. Just looks like he is going to make good contact every at-bat. He does not, again, look overmatched at all. He doesn't seem vulnerable to off-speed pitches. He's not late on fastballs. And you're going to make outs. I'm not saying he's perfect. I mean, no one's going to hit 1,000, obviously, but for the most part, you just see him seeing the baseball well.
It's a good test here with Familia.
Yeah.
Who was an all-star last time he was an all-star was in 2016 last season. Led the Mets with 26 2/3 innings out of their bullpen. Got the split finger, mid to high 90s fastball.
So that split there in the dirt. There are some big league hitters, on occasion, you're going to swing at that. You're just not going to pick it up out of the hand of Familia. And that's what I'm saying about Nagowski's ability to see the ball. He didn't even remotely offer at that pitch, and I watch him swing at one in the dirt here. You just haven't seen it much this spring.
2-2. Stays alive. Familia came up with the Mets back in 2012. Brief time with Oakland when he was a free agent to be. They traded him away in 2018, then re-signed with New York. And the 2-2 pitch.
Another example. Now that pitch is a strike halfway to home plate. And you've got 2 strikes and you need to protect. Very typical for a hitter to offer at that. And that's what Familia thought would happen there. But now he's got a 3-2 pitch, and will he do it again?
And the 3-2. And he draws a walk.
What a great at-bat.
Sure was.
That's the patience we're talking about. And Familia stayed with the split and figured he's going to swing at this one. I'll make this one a little more tantalizing, but it too was low, and that's an outstanding at-bat by Nagowski.
One of the things the Mets are looking at coming out of this camp is trying to find the right Edwin Diaz. He was a disaster of historic proportions in 2019. 15 home runs in 58 innings. was a shutdown closer with Seattle. And then last year, he bounced back. 1.75 the ERA, had 6 saves in 26 games, no fans in attendance. And I bring that up because you're in New York, and if you struggle in New York, as you know, Ricky,
not
can
a
be
good
tough.
place to struggle. That's
No.
right.
Rondon, base hit to center field. 1 for 1 today. That pitch in the dirt. But the Mets should have very good, when healthy, starting pitching. Carrasco healthy. Get back Noah Syndergaard. You mentioned DeGrom at the top. Should be pretty good in what is one of the more competitive divisions in all of baseball. So big gap in left center for Rondon. Nagowski, the runner at first, and the 1-1 pitch.
I still think about Vince Coleman talking about going to New York, and just because Vince is, you know, the way he is, and just such a fun, positive guy, he really struggled with the scrutiny that is the New York media and even the New York fan base, and he really lamented not staying in St. Louis because of that. And I'm not saying that's true for all players, but not all players are built to play in New York.
The 2-1. Runner goes. Rondon chops it towards second. Step on the bag for the out, turns into 2. It's a double play. Cardinals start the runner, and the shortstop Lindor was there. So both teams have turned a double play today. Here's Carlos Martinez. Good to see him hitting here in the bottom of 5. That's a good sign.
When your starting pitcher gets 2 at-bats, it's a good day.
Yep. Mets went with the DH. Cardinals having their pitchers hitting here down the stretch. Talked about it yesterday, but no DH in the National League probably for the final time. Carlos popped out to short, his first time up, and it's a ball and a strike. Talking with John Mozeliak yesterday, and we were talking about the DH, and I said, I'm a traditionalist. He said, I am too, but in my seat, when you see these guys come up, these pitchers hitting in spring, and they swing, you hold your breath. You don't want to see guys get hurt. And there's already been a couple of instances with National League pitchers getting hurt by taking either BP or in games. And you don't want to see that, as Carlos gives himself a attaboy as he
Get for a foul
piece of
ball.
it.
Hey, you take anything you can get. Now, if that's not positive, I don't know what is.
I love it. And the 1-2 pitch. Struck him out. And he and Familia have words. It seems like a really hotly contested battle between those two as they laugh going off. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and not to be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. You can dance at the ballpark, take in the sunshine. And now for a quick word about our new network.
Your favorite teams have a new network. Fox Sports Midwest is becoming Bally Sports Midwest. March 31st.
Oh, that fan was into it, wasn't
No
she?
doubt. Good time at the ballpark.
You got it. How about Carlos Martinez today?
Been a good time at the ballpark for the Cardinal right-hander Martinez, too. A lot of ground ball outs today. The late sink, the soft contact, and keeping the infielders busy, especially on the right side of the infield. And this is vintage Carlos Martinez, even getting a double play to help the cause. And that helped him get out of an inning, and a lot to be thankful for.
8 ground ball outs, 3 flyouts For Martinez, pitching into the 6th, Francisco Lindor.
That was pitch number 68 for Carlos Martinez.
Efficient.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, you've been down in spring. You've seen him on a lot of these starts. What's the difference today? And,
yeah.
You know, what you've seen.
Consistently throwing the pitches the same way. I mean, he's just had an inning or two in every game I've seen him where he's just been all over the place and just out of rhythm, out of whack. I'm almost going to say lost. And I know that happens in spring training, happens with hitters, pitchers. And he just seems to be right on time with everything he's doing with his delivery. He's very focused. It's a word you'll hear him say a lot. He understands. He'll say it because he knows that's what he needs to do. He needs to stay focused. He's heard that messaging, you know, his whole career in the big leagues because he's so talented when he's right.
2-2 the count.
Yachty stole that strike.
Lindor has singled to left and struck out swinging in the 3rd. And a full count. He's had a tremendous spring training here for the Mets. You look at his body, you'd say, well, that guy, is he going to hit for much power? He's already got 4 home runs this spring. Not a big guy. It's not Pete Alonso. Bat speed. They talk about his bat speed incredibly quick. And he draws a walk. On base for the 2nd time, leadoff walk, and the 2nd walk issued by Carlos. And this is where he needs that ground ball again.
Going to be a little harder to get with Conforto, although he did bounce out one time because he's trying to elevate. That's what he did last time, a long fly ball to center field in the 4th inning. You know, he's thinking damage.
High strike again, going Carlos' way. Mets have made their opening day starter known. That is Jacob deGrom. No surprise. They'll be at Washington. So you'll have Scherzer, deGrom in game 1.
How about that?
Buckle up. It's always interesting on these shifts with a double play. Can Arenado get there quickly enough to second base, or is it Rondon who's at short who's on the second base side when you try to turn 2? And as a pitcher, we had this play the other day. You've got to know, because it'll be surprising. You look back, game has changed. Who's covering the bag?
And from count to count, they may shade even more. If you're deep in the count, they may extend the shift. And so it's not just who's covering second, but where are you starting from? Because it's a timing play often at that second base bag.
And the 1-1 pitch. Wonder what baseball would look like if a team said this spring, we're just going to try something. We're not doing this shift on Conforto. We're not doing it with Lindor. We're not doing it with anybody. We're going to stay traditional and see, you know, in our normal spots. Now, we may shade, meaning, you know, play to pull a little bit, as we talked about before. But we're not going to have these exaggerated shifts. Are we going to see base hits? Are we going to see hits taken away? I mean,
it'd be very interesting.
It would be. Now, teams are doing this for a reason. Obviously,
yeah,
the numbers bear it out.
The numbers show it. Well, the numbers show it, but then, you know, it's not always an exact science either. Theo Epstein said after his first year of doing expanded shifts with the Cubs, they did an analysis and they realized that they hurt themselves by shifting, not help themselves. I mean, that's their own internal analysis. Now, that's not true across the board. It does help you to do the shifts. But Theo also is now part of the commissioner's task force to try to find ways to get kind of real baseball looking plays in like hit and runs and stolen bases and hitting the cutoff man and gappers and all that, triples and all the things that, you know, fans like, movement. And so he's actually trying to figure out, and he's actually said, by doing all that we've done, we may have taken the game backwards a little bit. And
I'm part of the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Check swing and got him. Good pitch.
I mean, we didn't say that. He said it. I mean, he literally said, I'm part of the problem. So, again, the minor league system, as we talked about yesterday, are exploring several rules to try to see if they can't fix that. And there's really tight slider. You saw a good look at the little dot on that slider, really sharply thrown.
Raul Ibanez is also a part of that too. Enjoyed a very fine major league career. Dylan Betances, longtime Yankee, now with the Mets, is getting loose in the pen for New York. Here's Pete Alonso. Good pitch. He's got that slider working pretty well right now.
And so far, he hasn't slowed down third times through the lineup. A couple of strikeouts. Struck out Nimmo to end the fifth. Strikes out Conforto. So Carlos, to this point, showing no signs of letting up.
Shift on the left side of the infield. Jeff Passan of ESPN has reported that Major League Baseball attempting to crack down on foreign substances are outlined, various things to take a look at the baseball. And it was a memo obtained by ESPN. Increased monitoring of compliance officers, inspections of baseballs taken out of play that will use a third-party lab to check for those substances, spin rate analysis. And those compliance officers are looking in the dugouts, clubhouses, tunnels, batting cages, bullpens. There's a lot of talk about the foreign substances on the baseball as Alonso rips it out to left, but there is Nagowski.
I thought we had 4 compliance officers at every game, one behind home plate, one at first, one at second, one at third.
That would be known as the umpires.
Yeah, right. Another name, but and they used to have to do that, but obviously the reality is there's only so many places you can look, and I think the idea is to make sure that's not happening surreptitiously.
A guy's breaking ball take a significant jump in a positive way, then people say, well, is he got something on the fingers, is something on the ball, the grip, able to spin it out of the hand?
Probably going
to look at offense in the game.
Probably going to be some misses on that too, because a pitcher may actually learn a new grip.
Well, here's the other thing. You talk to a hitter, and it's you're let's say you're Dominic Smith, okay, and you've got Andrew Miller coming in the game, and it's 35 degrees at Citi Field. You think he wants Andrew Miller to have a slick baseball? You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, I agree.
Wants to have some control to it.
I still think, and man, this is just the way I read it. Perhaps it's my pitching card that I'm playing here, but I don't think more offense is the answer in baseball. I think more movement is the answer. And
I totally agree.
So you say, you look at the number of runs scored in 2020 or 2021 or 2019 versus 1977. There really is not this drastic difference in the number of runs scored. It's how they're scored. And the idea is not so much more offense, but more movement, which means less walks, less strikeouts,
more
balls
play.
in play, and speeding up the pace.
We have great athletes in our game today. I mean, amazing
100%
athletes, and let's see them. Let's showcase them.
If a guy can run, and he never has to because he's either walking, striking out, or hitting a home run, that speed is negated.
2-1 pitch, 2-2.
I don't think we're like irreparably to any point in baseball. It's still a great game, even as it is. But just to be able to highlight, a player like Lou Brock and the kind of gifts that he brings to a field. But in talking about past players, but the current players. I mean, there's the speed of Bader, O'Neill.
Out to left, and it falls in front of Nagowski. Lindor was running, throwing to third, now to second. Staying put, Dominic Smith. Get here, even here in St. Louis, yelling in, trying to help Nagowski with that.
Seems like you got a late break on it. This is off the end of the bat, so you heard the in. He started back and makes the throw to third. Sometimes that allows the runner to go to second base, but not with Arenado. He's ready to stop that potentiality.
But you bring up a good point. One of the things that John Nagowski is going to have to do is, look, take your medicine, know where you got to throw the
right
ball.
Base, right. I don't think he threw the right base there, and probably didn't get a very good jump on that ball either, from what we could tell.
Jake Woodford is getting loose in the Cardinals pen. Pitch number 87. And McNeil rips it foul.
So Mike Schilt said this morning, that his desire was to get Woodford stretched out. The Carlos is pitching in the 6th inning. I mean, you may have to stay later. You may have to stay after work and stay down in the bullpen. It's going to be hard to get him more than 2 innings. I mean, and that may be all we see from Woodford, 2 innings, because he also wants to see Jordan Hicks. So don't go anywhere. We're going to see Jordan Hicks pitch in this game as well, and I'm looking forward to that.
Oki Orme comes up.
That would be awesome. Oh, it'd be terrific.
22 pitch at bat. See those two hook up again. 0-2 the count. Cardinals will have the top of their lineup coming up in the home half of the 6th. 1-0 our score. The difference is solo home run, John Nagowski. Swing and a miss. 2 strikeouts in the inning. 5 today for Carlos Martinez in 6 scoreless innings. Ball is brought to you by Budweiser. This Bud's for you. By Great Southern Bank. Understanding what really matters. And by the Hyundai Spring Upgrade event going on right now. Hurry in and get the upgrade you deserve. The palm trees down at Florida. Roger Dean Stadium. Rick Horton, Dan McLaughlin with you. We're in the studios here in St. Louis, Fox Sports Midwest. And the top of the Cardinal lineup, Dylan Betances, has spent his career in New York, whether it's been with the Yankees or the Mets.
You can be both a Met and a Yankee fan, by the way.
Really?
I don't know that you can be both a Cub and a White Sox fan. I'm not sure about that.
Doesn't fly.
But the only way to be a Met and a Yankee fan is to actually not be from New York City itself. Now, if you're from upstate or from maybe Connecticut, you can really root for both clubs. I know that from my own personal history. But once you get closer to the city, I think you have to realize where your loyalties lie.
Betances originally signed with the Yankees, 8th round, 2006. And he was really good for a long time with New York, the Yankees. Had appearances of 70 games one year, 74, 73, 66 a couple of times. Last year with the Mets, 15 games, ERA near 8. 2-2 pitch. Hit out of play by Carlson.
Notice that Carlson today seems to really be letting it loose a little bit more.
And
almost, I hate to say overswinging, because I don't know that that's a fair thing to say, and maybe there's some design to it, but it isn't kind of just the smooth swing. He's really trying to hit the ball a long way.
And a strikeout. That's how we start the inning here in the bottom of the 6th. All-inclusive tickets, they are back and on sale for April games. So not all the games are sold out. That's a lot of fans have asked me, oh, I guess I can't get a ticket. No, you can. All-inclusive, food and drinks included, great view of the game, and cardinals.com/all-inclusive.
Again, 32% capacity to begin with at Busch Stadium. The Mets, by the way, will have 20%. That's where they're going to start out, at least on opening day at Citi Field.
Goldie pops it foul and out of play. 0 for 2 today. Fly to right, grounded out to third. Texas has said, hey, we're open for business. They're at 100%. We'll see how many fans wind up being there for opening day. I'm intrigued by that. I think as we go further along in the summer, we're going to see those percentages get higher and higher of opening up around Major League Baseball, and that includes right here in St. Louis.
Certainly our hope.
Arenado on deck. Cardinals have the lead thanks to John Nagowski. That ball got away from the Cardinal bullpen where Jake Woodford is throwing. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Paul Goldschmidt. Grounded to Lindor at short. Stays down on it. Makes the play.
Boy, that was number 2. Bad hop, too. It just stayed on the ground. It looked like it was going to be a 3 or 4 hopper to him, and it just kind of scooted down. And that's a fielder. You always start with your glove down. You can always bring it up. If you bring it up too soon, it's hard to go back down.
Love how he circles the ball, too, Ricky.
Oh, yeah. Very smooth.
There's Arenado 0 for 2 today. Reached on an air back in the first and grounded out to short.
Adam Wainwright yesterday, 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 7 punch-outs. Today, Carlos Martinez, 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, and 5 punch-outs. Nice to see back-to-back mid-season form starts from both Wainwright and Carlos.
Especially with minus KK in this rotation and Miles Michaelis. So Michaelis is not going to break north with the club for sure, and still undecided on Kim. Dealing with a sore back and threw the other day, and he'll throw again over the weekend, if not sooner. The 2-0 pitch to Nolan Arenado.
Mike Schilt was asked about a couple of pitchers that we haven't seen for a bit, including Andrew Miller, and they said, well, because of the timing of it, he threw in a backfield game yesterday. Of course, we're not privy to that and can't see it at this point, but he said also throwing in that game was KK. Good. And that's the first I heard that.
3-1 on Nolan Arenado. And he draws a walk. Cardinals have received a couple of walks today. That'll be it for Arenado as he heads stage right, and a pinch runner is in. Here's Matt Carpenter. Carpenter 0 for 2, sent one to deep center and shallow center. It's Justin Williams, pinch runner for Arenado. Breaking ball and a strike. Might be it for Paul Goldschmidt too, so you could see Williams take over in the outfield potentially, move Nagowski if he stays in the game, play first base. We'll see how they want to handle it. Shift on the right side of the infield. And for those that are just joining us, Justin Williams was given a 4th option. There was a lot of talk in camp whether or not he would be out of options once the Cardinals left Jupiter, Florida, and he has been given that 4th option to go potentially to the minor leagues. And the 0-1 pitch. And Carpenter gets underneath it, pops it up. And the catch made by Alonso. Coming up, it's the Cat, Jim Hayes with Lane Thomas. Those two will visit next on Fox Sports Midwest. Changes for the Cardinals with Nolan Gorman at 3rd. Austin Dean is at first base. Sosa at 2nd, and Lane Thomas takes over in center. And recently, over Zoom, he had the chance to catch up with Jim Hayes.
Last season was a throwaway for you because of the COVID. I know even when you came back, you weren't yourself. You're having a really good spring camp. What does that mean to you to be able to put last season behind you and sort of start fresh?
Oh, it's awesome. I think that's good to do anyways. You know, even if it was a good year or a bad year, I think it's important to kind of let that go and move on, and just good to have a good off season and work out, and had plenty of time to get strong again. So yeah, I think I haven't had a ton of bats over the last couple of years, and it's been good. I know Harry was dealing with some stuff, and I got to play every day, so that was good too to play consistently for a week there and just kind of get some of those at bats back that I'd missed.
You mentioned the off season again stronger. Were you putting in more weight work than you normally do to get bigger, get a little stronger?
I think it's just I had more time. You know, I didn't take any time off because I had so much time off during the season. So right when I got home, I just kind of hit it hard, and I was down quite a bit of weight. So I just put on probably another 10 pounds, you know, got back to where I was, and then just tried to get as strong as possible, you know. So, yeah, it was a good off season.
You know, in terms of what you're doing, you're playing very well on the offensive side, but you're also showing defense. I'm not so sure that some Cardinal fans knew what you were capable of doing defensively. They've seen it a little bit this spring training. How much pride do you take in your defense?
Oh, I think it's a big part of my game. You know, I think I've said this before, it's kind of been my role. You know, the last couple of years was playing defense late innings and, you know, trying to help out. So I think it's always been there. I think it's always tough when you don't have the reps, you know, and different stadiums and this and that. So I think it's good. Hopefully I get more opportunity.
You know, as you get more and more exposure to big league pitching, what are some of the things you work on when you're at the plate, things that maybe you're trying to change up or do better or handle differently?
Just trying to get ready for those, you know, pinch hits early on. And, you know, if it comes into a different role, that's fine. But I think it's just spring training is good because you face a new pitcher every couple innings, you know. So I think it's good to face, you know, when I start games or when I come in, you're facing a new guy every at bat. And that's kind of more realistic towards the late inning games. So, yeah, just getting prepared and ready to go.
A lot of young guys in the outfield mix. I know you guys get along very well, but what's it like? You're sort of in competition with guys, but you're on the same team. You're all friendly. What's that been like between all the young guys vying for a spot or at-bats?
I think it just makes you better as a group. You know, you have a lot of guys that want the same roles or different roles, and you're all shooting for the same stuff. I think it's just everybody respects each other and, you know, is ready to work at the same time. But, you know, everybody's prepared, so it's going to be a fun season for us, I think.
Last thing, as things seem to be trending in a more positive direction with COVID, there will be fans at games. We seem to be getting a handle on it as a country. It looks like it's going to be a much different season for Major League Baseball going forward. How much are you looking forward to that?
Oh, I think it's going to be, you know, I got a little taste of it in 19, and I don't even think you can describe the feeling playing in front of, you know, even that many fans. So I'd say everybody in the clubhouse is excited, and even more of the fans are probably excited to see some baseball in person. So I think it'll bring everybody up a little bit and, you know, get ready to go.
All right, Jimmy, thank you. And that's Lane Thomas backing up on that play in center field after the stolen base as J.D. Davis reached on an air to start this inning. The strikeout for Jake Woodford. He is your new pitcher, and here's Guillorme.
You know, the Cardinals had two shots at getting J.D. Davis out, the throwing error, and then that throw by Yachty, not his best, and Sosa not able to handle a lot of defensive changes for the Cardinals. Sosa playing second, as you mentioned, and Jake Woodford hopefully getting stretched out. They've been looking for opportunities to get him more stretched out. The idea is he's going to be a starter. I mean, that's his essential MO, but just have not seen a lot of him, at least on the normal Roger Dean field. Perhaps the backfields he's been getting more work.
Here's a 1-0 pitch with Davis, the tying run at second base. Curveball, a beauty. Jake has got that. He's got a very good breaking ball.
He does. And good velocity, too. There's the spring numbers. Again, not stretched out a lot, but expect to see him 2 innings here this afternoon.
Hit out of play.
I guess the other thought, Dan, is with minor leagues as they are now, starting a month later, some of the extra players don't necessarily have to get a ton of innings. And, you know, who knows where Jake's going to end up. But if that's where he ends up, he's going to have some time to get stretched out to be ready for the opening of their season, which is presumably first week in May, which is odd for the minor leagues.
Ground ball, right side. Woodford covering, and the play made by Austin Dean. We primarily have seen Dean in the outfield, but he can't play the infield, and showing us here. Perfect strike to Woodford covering the bag.
Well, when a coach says, can you play first base, you say yes.
Absolutely.
Until you prove him differently.
Brandon Nimmo, top of the Mets lineup. Grounded back to Carlos Martinez. Lined out to center and also struck out. Martinez 6 innings, 4 hits, 5 strikeouts along the way. Good breaking pitch in there for a strike. Cardinals have Molina, Dean, and Nagowski coming up. Fastball inside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Here's a 1-1 pitch. Up and in. 2 balls and a strike.
One of the things I like about the Woodford curveball, and you noticed it right away, he's had a couple of really good curveballs in this outing here today, is he's throwing it hard. You know, upper 70s, that's hard for a curveball, and I think that complements his 92, 93 mile an hour fastball. He can throw harder than that, but that's probably where he'll sit.
Here's a 2-1 pitch. Fly ball. Shallow center. And Lane Thomas with the catch. Time to stretch. Molina coming up when we come back. Spring training telecast is Saturday at 5. Cardinals and Marlins here on Fox Sports Midwest, soon to be Bally Sports Midwest. Cardinals spring training coverage is brought to you by Mid-America Chevy. Couple of changes. Drury takes over at first base for the Mets, and Miguel Castro is the new pitcher. I don't think I want to mess with Miguel anytime soon. His father, Miguel Sr., former heavyweight boxer and butcher. Now that's the...
Wait a minute.
Yeah, that's the combination. Former heavyweight boxer and butcher. Says it right here in the media guide.
I would say that's a pretty nasty combination right there.
Either one.
I mean, I honestly think you should make 2 sentences out of that.
He's a former heavyweight boxer.
Period. And by the way,
and also enjoys being a butcher on the side. As Molina pulls it foul past Pop Warner. So that's a combination you don't hear every day.
No, you do. So you're not messing with him is what you're saying.
That's right.
He's actually had a good spring. Not been scored upon. Cardinals pitching has been outstanding today, but so has the Mets.
Slings it up there for a ball. Last year began the season with the Orioles and then dealt to the Mets at the trade deadline. And Yachty lifts a fly ball into right near the line. And the catch right there on the line by Conforto.
He almost butchered that.
So you tied in that he almost made a misplay and say butchered it.
Yeah,
and
you saw what I did there.
Dad is a butcher. Yeah. Got it. Rick Horton locked in for 2021.
Well, you know, this is kind of our warm up, getting ready for the regular season too. You know, we've got to talk on the side a little bit in between starts, and you and I, of course, do that, and then we talk on the backfield.
I've really missed our time on the backfield.
Yes,
that's been tough for me not to be able to go back there. Usually we're there about 7:30, 8.
Here's what I'm going to do for you, Danny. I'm going to go on the backfields the day after tomorrow, and I'm going to grab some dirt
and bring it back.
And I'll bring it back to you, okay?
So Roger Clemens, when he got strikeout number 4,000, win number 300 against the Cardinals, Edgar Renteria, that's famous strikeout, and this is Dean. He went back onto the field at Yankee Stadium. We did that game, and he grabbed the dirt from the mound, and that was to commemorate a milestone in his career. And I think that'll be great if you could bring me some dirt from the backfield.
So you'll have that on your mantle, in your office somewhere.
And tough day for Dean at the plate. Strikes out for the 3rd time. Oh, yeah, that's on the trophy case.
We always, you and I, of course, joke about the backfields a lot. We talk about them, but it is hard to explain how much fun it is in a normal spring training to have 4 games going on. There's a tower in between 4 different fields, and you can go up in the tower and literally watch 4 games, an A-ball game, a AA, a AAA. You can watch 4 games going on at a time, and you can see so much from there, and you can identify the next Dylan Carlson, and you talk to the coaches and the scouts who are there, not scouts, but the Cardinals analytic people who are there, their performance people. You get so much information, and it's really just fun to watch them develop.
Here's Nagowski. Good day for him. Solo home run. Earned a walk against Familia, and that one is way inside. 2 balls and no strikes. Yeah, you'll hear when you're down in spring training, and we talk to performance officials at the Cardinals or those in the analytics department or coaches, and they'll tell you, hey, watch number 87.
Yeah.
You may never have heard of him, but he's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's fun to see that. And all of a sudden, a couple years later, he's in a big league game. And then there's some guys they don't have to tell you about. You watch them pitch, and you say,
pretty
oh,
obvious.
Okay, I got you. Two balls and a strike on Nagowski. Into center. And another base hit for Nagowski. Takes the turnaround first. He'll stop there. Nearly caught. Kind of a hesitation coming in on that ball, but Nagowski will take it. He's on base for the 3rd time.
Yeah, the hits just keep coming for him. And, I'm not going to call that his hardest hit. Clearly, he was jammed a bit, but he's just finding holes. He's finding spots. And good pitch inner half, but he's still able to muscle it into the outfield. Almost a good play in center. He boxed that one. You see, you box it, and there are 2 things you can do on the defensive side.
I got you. I got it the first time. I got you that time.
And you're done with it.
Now you're going to tell me Castro's trying to carve up Rondon here.
I wasn't going to say that, but I like it.
Rondon 1 for 2. Grounded into a double play. Single to center. Nothing in 2 the count. Runner at first, John Nagowski. 1-0 Cardinals here in the home half of the 7th. And he struck him out. Miguel Castro, a couple of strikeouts, sends us to the 8th. It's 1-0. Player of the game, and it's the starter today for the Cardinals, Ricky, and that's Carlos Martinez.
We highlighted him in the open, saying it was a good time for him to get it all together, and boy, did he ever. Just 4 hits. He used both sides of the plate with his slider, and that's what I really like, the down and in slider to get strikeouts and the backdoor slider to get strikes against lefties. And Mike Maddox has to be very happy with what he's seen this afternoon from Carlos.
2nd inning of work for Woodford. Joined a scoreless 1st inning. Good curveball there. Gets Lindor here. It'll be Lindor. And then 3 and 4 in their lineup. Whew, well, that curveball is nasty today.
Sharp break. It's not just the total break, it's how sharp is it. The quick downward trajectory of that pitch, that one was unhittable. Even by Lindor.
Here's a 1-2 pitch to Lindor. Got him to reach. Had him out in front. Sosa making the play for the first out here in the 8th. Well, you've been mentioning Jordan Hicks. Will we see him in this game? Will it be just a 2-inning appearance if it's done quickly here by Woodford? They want to stretch him out, as you mentioned.
I mean, you could possibly have Woodford pitch a couple of innings, bring Hicks in for the 9th. If you really feel like it's important for him to get into a game, I think you bring in Jordan Hicks and you just send Jake Woodford to the bullpen and have him throw 20 more pitches. I mean, you could possibly do that. Not obviously the same, but Woodford's been sharp through an inning and a third, and there is Jordan Hicks stretching.
If you're wondering what that is on his belt, he is a diabetic, so has that with him at all times. Opted out of last year in the COVID-19 season.
He looks bigger this year to me. I'm not sure if it's just...
We're told he's one of the strongest guys on the team.
And he's a lot taller than you think, too. When you actually stand next to him, you're just kind of surprised how big a man he is anyway. But I think he's stronger, if that's possible.
0-2, missed down and in. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Mike Maddox telling us on an earlier telecast he was hitting on the backfields consistently 101, 102 on the gun. Had a game in which he appeared the other day. He was high 90s. With his fastball.
He is stretching out like a player that's going to pitch in this game.
I would agree.
Pitchers stretch all the time, but I think we'll see him shortly.
2-2. Curveball again, and a fly ball to left near the line in the corner. Nagowski with the catch.
Well, he hasn't been tested a lot. We've seen a couple of balls where he maybe did not get the best jumps playing left field, but he handled that one fine down in the corner. Not the toughest of plays, but you know, when you're a left fielder, if you can do damage with the bat, I mean, that's part of the MO a lot of times of left fielders.
No doubt.
And so if you're talking about a guy who can actually just serviceably play left field, I think you've got that in Nagowski.
Here is Drury, took over at first base, his first plate appearance. Well, scouts are allowed at the ballpark. They're behind home plate, some of them. Michael Gersh is there, the general manager of the Cardinals. It's been a tough go for everybody, obviously, in every walk of life and what you do as a profession. And you think about scouts, no game, no job.
And they're still looking for their protocol about how they're going to be used during the season. Several of them talked to Tyler Green about that a few days ago. And still uncertainty about just how much travel they may or may not be able to do as scouts.
Nolan Gorman, nice play to his left. Midway through 8. 1-0 St. Louis. Here's Bob Gibson on the cover. It is available for you. Get a subscription by calling, and they're standing by right now. 314-345-9000. Visit cardinals.com/magazine. Gabe Kiley, Steve Zesh, and his crew do a terrific job. Stan McNeil, all at Cardinals Magazine. Jerry Blevins is in for the Mets, and then you have Jordan Hicks getting loose for the Cardinals in their pen.
Hicks will have the 9th, which means the day is through for Jake Woodford. I'll still be interested whether he goes and throws some more. 2 innings, not bad for stretching out a guy at this stage, but he could not have been better. 2 solid innings for Woodford.
Here's Lane Thomas. Came in midway, took over in center field. And that pitch lifted down the right field line and out of play. You know, you always find out interesting things, by the way, in the media guide, as you know, Ricky. Jerry Blevins has been in the big leagues for over 10 years. Over 10 years of major league experience. He's 6'4", 182. So not a big hulking man out there.
No.
Slender man, if you will. Nice play. Guillorme. High throw, and Thomas is safe. And I bring that up because Jerry Blevins is a donut lover and samples the best donuts across major league cities.
So he's not a boxer and he's not a butcher like the previous pitcher, but
Correct.
he's a donut lover.
He loves his donuts. Oh, he's not the only one.
No. Not exactly the meal of champions, really.
Well, that's he's the pro athlete, right? He's supposed to stay in shape.
Well, he
He's
does not
enjoyed
seem to be packing on the pounds. I'll
No,
say
sir.
that.
And he's enjoyed a really nice career, which began with the A's in 2007. Long time with Oakland. 1 year with the Nationals. Was with the Mets for 4 seasons. Played with the Braves. And now back with the New York Mets.
Well, you mentioned 10 years. That's the magical number for major league players. It means that you will receive somewhere down the road a full pension. 10 years is where you max out on your pension. If you have 1 day in the big leagues, you'll get something prorated, but it works its way up to 10, and that's something that is not true of the players of the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. It really got much better in the 80s, really, in terms of the baseball pension, of course, negotiated in the basic agreement, which unfortunately is coming up again at the end of the season.
There's a swing and a miss by Sosa.
I say unfortunately because nobody likes to really talk about that, Dan.
And hopefully these guys are on the field this time next year and there's not a stoppage, which is kind of hovering over the game right now.
And you really don't want fans to be in the middle of any negotiations and conversations. I'd just as soon it happened without us knowing about it.
You bet.
Tell me about it when it's done.
You got it. There's a 1-2 pitch to Edmundo Sosa by Blevins. Last season signed a minor league contract, had an invite to Major League spring training with the Giants, and was released before the season started. So trying to catch on here with the Mets. And the 2-2 to Sosa. Waits on it, lines it foul. Hasn't been a great camp for Sosa, who, as we've talked about this spring, is out of options. So the Cardinals either have to keep him or could be claimed by another team, or clears waivers and heads down to AAA.
Or does not clear waivers and somebody else takes it.
That's right.
Like you said. Yeah, and that's the, you know, the possibility here that players are playing for the last week of spring training, not just the club you're trying to make, but another club you could make. Talked about the scouts are at the ballpark looking. They want to know about it. I've been asked about it. What do you think of it as a player?
And what do you think?
And well, what I think is, I think he's a very serviceable utility player. I think he's a good fielder. I think he's probably had a better spring than his numbers indicate. I mean, if you just look at his numbers, you'd say it's not good, but again, not a lot of overmatched at-bats for him either.
3-2 pitch. Runner goes, pitch in the dirt, and runners at first and second. There's also the fact, Ricky, I mean, they've made a long investment into Edmundo Sosa.
Right.
You know, picked up by the Cardinals in his teen years, and now here he is in the cusp of having to either be with the club or not. And are you going to make that decision based on 15 spring at-bats or over the body of work of what you've seen and what you expect?
We really thought we'd see him last year, and then COVID changed everything for him and the club and the whole dynamic, and we didn't see him. So it just seems like it would be a good message to send to the Cardinal minor league development staff as well as the minor leaguers themselves that we're going to stick with our guy first. If it's a toss-up, we're going to stick with our guy first.
There's Nolan Gorman. Interesting camp for him. Arrived early, got permission to do so. Wanted to start working out at second base. He's had a couple of good moments at the plate in this spring.
Slow start, but gotten better.
Sweeping breaking ball taken low. Told me that when he was at the satellite camp last year, the individual instruction he had with Jose Oquendo defensively was incredible. But he started using 3D glasses to simulate left-handed pitchers and what he'd seen. It's about pitch recognition. And the first guy he plugged in there was Blake Snell. And he saw plenty of lefties last year. Zach Thompson was down there. Matthew Liberatore, his childhood best buddy. So while there wasn't competition, it was the best you could make of it.
I'd put him in the category, and you always hate to say this about a player, but he just can't miss in terms of being a big leaguer. Now, how good will he be? That's the question.
2 balls, 1 strike. Nolan Gorman at the plate. 2 runners on and nobody out. He pops it up left side and it drops. Forced play at third, but they can't make it. No infield fly as it went out to shallow left. Fans of the Atlanta Braves are saying, now where was that with Pete Kozma?
It wasn't much different, was it?
Nope.
I mean, that was within the realm of being an infield fly, and I was waiting to hear that kind of on our audio, and certainly we couldn't see it because we couldn't see the umpires. But, you know, I'm wondering, you could say right there, was he camped under it? Yeah, well, he's under it, but that's not where the ball is. But that's kind of what happened in that game with the Braves. And the runners, you know, they've got to, of course, advance at their own risk. But after dropping the baseball with no infield fly, you've got to run.
Yep.
That was odd. Very odd.
So an error, a walk, and a ball that should have been caught. And now Justin Williams.
So the rule on that for people that don't know, it has to be a reasonable play of which a player can make, should be able to make. Now, routinely. And that was not routine because of the spin off the bat and the fact that it kind of curved away from all the fielders and they were confused about it. Maybe lost it in the sun even. But the point is, to me, it doesn't have to be on the dirt. It can be on the grass, which that was. I'm not sure why that wasn't an infield fly.
Yeah, more times than not, that is called infield fly. The game I'm referring to is the famous playoff game between the Braves and the Cardinals. Pete Kozma went out. Ball dropped. Infield fly was awarded, and the place went bananas. You may remember that game.
Well, we originally showed that there were 3 base runners. Now we see there's only 2. So that was, in fact, an infield fly.
Okay.
And Gorman was out, and they did advance at their own risk. Huh. So there you go. The joy of being in St. Louis doing a game in Florida, Dan.
You got it. And the 1-1 pitch. Williams waits on it, and a base hit into center. 1 run is in. Here comes another. Justin Williams, lefty-lefty matchup, makes him pay and adds to the Cardinals' lead. It's 3-0 St. Louis.
The stock of Justin Williams is rising. John Nagowski's stock has been rising since day 1, but it's taken a little bit for Justin Williams to get his timing, and he's got it now. He's hitting the ball with authority. Ball off his bat the last time we saw him, 108 on a base hit to right. Now that wasn't 108, but it got the job done, and he's all smiles, and why not?
There's Moroff, the pinch hitter, Max Moroff. So 1 out. Williams at first base. 3-0 Cardinals. Hicks set to come on in the top of the 9th. Another check on Williams. Ouch. Right off the mask. It's Maxwell now behind the plate.
The swing and then the change of direction. My goodness, that caught him flush.
Take a listen here. Ouch. Oh, 1 the count on the switch hitting Moroff. Homered against the Mets earlier this spring. That was in Port St. Lucie. That floats up there for a ball low. So 1 out. 1 ball, 1 strike. Justin Williams, a runner at first base. This will be pitch number 19 from Jerry Blevins. We thought about the camp of Moroff. I think he's opened up some eyes.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly deserves a look at potentially helping the team during the course of the year. I don't know if it would be April 1st, but wouldn't hesitate to use him.
2-1. Outside corner. Evens it up 2-2.
Moroff went up to Willie McGee and said, you played with my dad. And they had the little chat about that. Dad was a minor league player with the Yankees.
Did Willie remember?
He did. He remembered him.
2-2 pitch. You're not going to get much past Willie McGee.
No, you're not. You certainly aren't.
Looking forward to hearing the ovation for Willie opening day, which is always tremendous. Nolan Arenado. And just fans back in the ballpark.
My guess is for some of those guys, 15,000 will sound like 50,000.
Yeah. And for some broadcasters, too.
That's right.
It was odd. I mean, you cannot replace the fans. They tried their best, piped in the crowd and cardboard cutouts, and it was what it was. But there is nothing like having actual fans at the ballpark. Nothing. See if they want to start Williams here on 3-2. He's not running, and the pitch is popped up. Lindor makes the catch. Fox Sports Midwest is becoming Bally Sports Midwest. Bally Sports will be the new network of your favorite teams starting March 31st. First plate appearance for Andrew Kisner. Did you see much of, when you were down there, Herrera?
No. Not a lot of at-bats from Herrera.
Yeah.
He pinch hit a couple of times. Didn't see him catch very much. But he's the catcher of the future.
Exactly.
But he's still just 20. He's a little bit in the Nolan Gorman category of he's invited to spring but not expected to see a lot of action.
Kisner, base hit into left. Andrews had a solid camp. And as you know, you need catchers in spring training.
Well, and Mike Schilt has said, our backup catcher, he said it either yesterday or the day before, Andrew Kisner's our backup catcher. He have no problem saying that right now. He is our guy. And they'll have to have a catcher on the taxi squad. And Herrera, of course, is going to have to play and develop.
So Kisner, the base hit to left, and this will be a pitching change coming up. That'll be it for Blevins. 3-0 our score. Stephen Tarpley. His numbers this spring was 6 innings, 1.50 ERA. He was with Miami last year. 12 games for the Marlins, and has also appeared in New York with the Yankees. Brief time in 2018, 21 games in 19. Stephen Tarpley, left-handed pitcher. So here's Austin Dean, 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts today. First pitch is strike. Jordan Hicks, he is set for the 9th inning for St. Louis.
Well, Dean would like to have a better finish to this game than he's had as a start with the 3 strikeouts, but he's got the kind of pop in his bat where he can turn a bad day into a good day with 1 good swing.
A 1 pitch. He gets his hacks, doesn't he?
He does. He does.
Remember when he was acquired from Miami and talking with some of the Marlins folks that we know quite well, and said, just tell us about Dean. Right now, man without a position, however, as streaky as you'll find, and when he's on a hot streak, you can't get him out. And he had a brief one last year with the Cardinals, and he's got power, but just trying to find a spot. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
You know, it's hard to give up on power. When somebody's got the ability to do damage in this game, it's just hard to give up on that, because you think, well, maybe just something will click timing-wise and result in, again, the damage you hope for.
1-2 the count. About time is called.
How about one more John Nogowski at bat?
He is on deck. I'm saying we're going to get it, Ricky.
Yeah, I'm pining for it, Dan.
Okay, good. Nogowski on base 3 times. And that's pulled foul. And the 1-2 pitch to Dean. Ooh, hot shot, hit the first, and the play is made. Cardinals strand a pair. They pick up 2. Jordan Hicks coming into the ball game when we come back. Jordan Hicks into the ball game, and Hicks coming off of Tommy John. This would be his 4th appearance of the spring. His first was against these New York Mets. 1 pitch at 1 batter, 1 plate appearance that he saw is 22 pitches in that plate appearance, then 2/3 against Houston, and then picked up a win against Houston back on the 20th. That was 1 inning. Here's Malix Smith, a speedster. We saw him with Seattle a couple years ago in interleague play. There's some speed. 98 on the gun. Gear it up. Pitches 133 last year.
If he wasn't awake before he went to the box, he is awake now, most decidedly. You know, Jordan Hicks has made, Dan, the same adjustment, same type adjustment we talked about yesterday. Jim Hayes had a really nice interview with Alex Reyes. He talked about him setting his hands more at the chest than at the belt to kind of get his arm up quicker, helps him be a little quicker to the plate and not be underneath the ball and push the ball. You really get the downhill action because you get the arm up quicker. There's the set at the letters, not at the belt.
3-0. So not the long
arm arc
take back of the ball. So the higher set. And here's a 3-0. 4 straight. Smith is aboard. Kisner out to visit.
Well, here's the difference from where Jordan was and where he is. You look at him on the left wearing that good old number 49, and he has his hands set at the belt, but the Jordan of 2021 is set at the birds on the bat. And I think it just helps you get, again, the arm up quicker and throw downhill. Now, he has not found his target yet here this afternoon, but the claw will help him.
Is it hard to change like that?
It takes a little, yes, at first, and then you get used to it. And the change, because everything is timed up. It's like changing your golf swing. You know, the first time you get a new golf swing, you know, you're bound to score worse because you don't have your timing all synced up yet. And that last comment was a little autobiographical, I might add. But I think with Hicks, he's probably thrown enough bullpens, and you don't have to just do it in the game, but just enough bullpens where I think he's timed up okay. He's just missing up.
And there's a strike to McNeil. So some of the regulars playing 9 innings today for the Mets, and Mike Schild has talked about having every regular before they break camp wants to get them 9 innings, and that includes Yadier Molina, who did that about a week ago. He was one of the first regulars to play all 9.
And he asked for it. He actually went to Mike and said, I want to do it. And I think Mike Schild, manager of the year, smart enough not to say no to Yadier Molina.
You got it. A little bit of a shift on the right side, anticipating maybe a bunt. That's Gorman at third. He was in on the grass and now backs up a step or two. 0-2 the count. Oh, 2 pitch. That's hit out of play.
Cardinals pitching has been outstanding today, and you'd like to see Jordan Hicks finish the deal here in the 9th inning. Carlos could not have been any better. Jake Woodford could not have been any better. Again, this is a lot of the regular Met lineup playing all 9 innings. A good offense, and the Cardinals pitching took care of business, at least so far.
Upstairs, that at triple digits, 100 on the gun from Hicks. Almost went to the backstop. You know, if he's wild, it's not a comfortable spot to be if you're Kisner or Molina.
Hard to catch, absolutely.
And the 1-2 pitch. We'll see how the Cardinals want to use Jordan Hicks initially in regular season play. It's not like it's automatic that he is in the back end of games and closing. Could be a combination of relievers the onset of this season.
Well, if you're going to be the closer, you not only have to have the stuff for it, and you could check that box with Jordan Hicks, but you've got to have the built-up durability to feel like you can use him a couple days in a row, tough situations, and you know, many times in a week. And you don't want to push that necessarily too soon.
That is you were talking about Carlos Martinez, and that was one of the benefits of having him in the back end of games. A couple times he went 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
Now, that's not ideal, but, 3 out of 5, that kind of thing. You probably cannot do that with Hicks initially.
Work up to that.
Yep. 1-2 the count with a runner at first base. McNeil at the plate. With a changeup.
I like the idea of, and I know it's a hard sell to a lot of relievers, but you're trying to win games and you're trying to win championships and win divisions and all that. I like the idea of just throwing everybody out in the bullpen for the first half of a season and letting kind of the chips fall where they may. And as a guy starts to establish and looks like, you know what, he's our 8th inning guy. I mean, do the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. I'm okay with that, but let it evolve.
And McNeil out to right. Justin Williams. Smith back to the bag at first, and there's one away.
Boy, he turned that around, didn't he?
Sure did.
For the Mets, number 77.
Well, you got to get it going early if you're going to catch up with Hicks.
Man. It was a 100-mile-an-hour sinker. line to the right fielder. As you mentioned, our players in the game today are extremely athletic.
Wow. And that is off the foot of Hicks. He'll still get the lead man to first and not in time. So Khalil Lee will be at first base. If Hicks lets that go, it's probably game over.
Probably is, but your natural reaction is to try to stop it with glove or with foot. And so he does it with the foot off his glove. Now Jordan doesn't quite panic the way he did in a game earlier this week, where he hadn't had a lot of experience in game-ready situations, and his fielding was a little bit too ramped up and much more deliberate in picking that baseball up and getting the lead runner.
Here's the catcher, Maxwell. That's a tough game. You take one straight off the mask. You're shook up a bit, and then, oh, by the way, your first plate appearance, you get Jordan Hicks.
Yeah. How was your day?
And the 1-0 pitch by Hicks to Maxwell. Fastball at triple digits. "13 pitches, 95 miles an hour or above." And with not a lot of crowd, you can hear that thing sizzling towards the plate. Two balls and a strike.
And you can hear it. I mean, especially in the batter's box. You know, Danny, it makes a noise that's...
Yep. Our buddy Ricky Ankiel, when he would snap off a breaking ball, you hear that. And in this case, it's the fastball. On the 2-1, a high chopper. Rondon to first. The tag applied by Dean, and the Cardinals win it 3-0. And with the win, the Cardinals are above 500 in Grapefruit League action. 8-7-5. The Mets drop to 10-9-1. And we'll come back and wrap things up in a moment.